And one of those is a store.
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We just purchased the Skid Row People's Market, which was owned by a Korean family for 29, I think 30 years before we purchased it. And now we just purchased it and did the re-grand opening this past Sunday.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Just having that, because you know what we've heard about Black Korean relationships, but there are also some positive things that we can glean from that, an uplift from that, and this transition was one of them, right? It's not that they gave us the store; they didn't give us the store, right? There's people are benefiting on both sides, right?
You purchased the store.
Yeah, we purchased the store,
but they wanted to make sure you had the first right of refusal.
Absolutely, because of the support that the Black community. Skid Row is about 60% Black, right? Depending on who you ask, some say 75, some say 80, but it's the forgotten Black community. So they wanted a Black organization or a Black family or a Black person to purchase the store, and that came out of the relationship I had with their son, who went to one of our book clubs that we did with Creating Justice years ago, when we were going through a book called The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, which talks about gentrification and talks about redlining specifically, and how ghettos were created, right, through redlining and through land covenants and that whole thing, sundown towns and all of that stuff. And so that was the inspiration. And when he was ready to sell the store, that's why he wanted to do it, because he felt like they wanted to give back in that way.
So, I mean, I think it's a testament to community building, to fellowship, and
absolutely
breaking through some of the stereotypes about how so-called race relations always have to be.
Right.
But I'm really encouraged by it, because we talked about this maybe a year ago or more.
Right, exactly.
And I hear ideas like this all the time. You say, wow, that'd be so cool.
Right.
But many times they never make it from idea to reality.
Right.
Let's
there's
buy
a struggle.
the store. Yeah, and there's funds involved as well.
Yeah, there's funds involved. There's struggles. We've got to come up with the money. We've got to come up with the folks that oppose, this type of partnership and relationship. But again, it comes from the everything is reciprocal, right? It comes from the give and take, right? The relation. It started with a relationship between Danny and myself, right? The son of the family, right? And they actually transitioned the business to him in 2018, right? It's a family legacy, and he decided that's not what he wanted to do, and instead of selling it and looking for another Korean family to sell it to, he said, hey, this community has been pouring into my family for 30 years, depending on how you see it, right? The support the community has been given to him, right, in terms of putting the dollars in their pockets so they can purchase a home, so they can go to send their children to school. But now those dollars are, because we're a nonprofit, those dollars are now going to stay in the community. And there was some of it staying in the community because obviously they employed some folks from the community, but now all of it is going to stay most of it is going to stay in the community. Obviously we have distributors we got to go through, and we're trying to find as many grassroots and Black and just marginalized distributors as we can for the store and all of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind it, but we boots on the ground.
Right.
Where the fans
so
at.
Now you got the smoothie shop, the store,
yeah,
the Peace and Healing Center.
Yeah, we have a smoothie shop, Skid Row Coffee as well. And those two are not fully developed. The smoothie shop, we do a lot more pop-ups, but if you know somebody who's got $1 million, then we can make it happen tomorrow.
I know people with $1 million, but they just don't seem to give it to me.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah, but somebody could call a Black kid the N-word, and then they'll become a millionaire. Like,
yeah. Well, right now those funds are frozen, so hopefully it'll stay that way.
Hopefully, yeah.
But look, I like telling this story and retelling this story and tracking the progress, because I feel like we're in a very discouraging time.
Yeah.
Politically. if we only focus on the national news and we don't look at what's going on in our neighborhoods or in our families or in our journals, in our
there are some depressing things happening.
Yeah, there's depressing things happening, but I mean, I just don't want us to give in to that. I think that fear is a big part of the problem.
Right.
And that story, even though, as you point out, there's reciprocal benefit.
Correct.
Right? Nobody gave you a store.
Come on now.
But also they didn't
have to
block you out from getting a store. They tried to make it possible in many communities.
And went out of the way to do it.
And went out of their way to do it. And many times, communities that aren't black, our perception is they try to box us out of opportunities. So I think it's important to celebrate those kinds of victories, the way that community works, relationship works. It's still about people. It's not all online.
Come on. Yeah, I think for us, that's the biggest piece, right? I mean, at our Peace and Healing Center, we talk about love, right? In Skid Row, you can't go into a business, just a regular business, and use the restroom if you're a houseless person. Obviously, there are reasons for that, and the business owners have their reasons. But when you go into the Peace and Healing Center, you can use the restroom. Our one rule is that we must love and protect one another, right? We must love each other. And so instead of saying, don't do this, we say, please put only toilet paper in the toilet. Right.
Okay. You ask for what you want, not what you don't want.
Exactly. Or please, or please consider that there are other people who need to use the restroom after you. So, use it freely, but also consider that there's someone coming after you. So, and we've got to show love to each other. We can't just talk about it.
Right. Well, and it's sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah.
That I think it was Che Guevara.
And we got to massage it, right? We got to massage those things. And there are times I get on there and I go, okay, somebody just did this, and we can't do that, right?
That's not what it is.
That's not what we do here, right? And you are free to come, but you're also free not to come, right? Yeah. We won't kick you out, but you're also free not to come. And the only reason we'll kick you out is if you hurt somebody else. If you cause physical harm or you cuss somebody out or something like that, we'll ask you to step out. And then when that person feels like it's safe enough for you to come back, then you can come back.
Talking with Pastor Q, I want to get your take on some of the 12 kinds of crazy that's happening in Washington.
Oh my goodness!
And how
you sure you want my take on this?
I absolutely do. I'm pretty sure these folks in our delegation do as well. But look, you all are always welcome in at 800-920-1580. We'll look at the big, beautiful budget, the South African visit to the White House, and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again. Holla.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There'll be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Flip the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DiPrima. DiPrima with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Love you.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
The conversation does continue right now. Pastor Q is my guest. And so a lot of things happening in the middle of the night. The Republicans, I say dirty deeds done in the dark,
Right.
passed what they call, with no sense of irony, their big, beautiful budget bill, which will add about $3 trillion to the deficit over the next 10 years. It extends the tax cuts for the rich to permanently, to forever. If this now has to go to the Senate to be passed, it passed by one vote after Trump went in and personally twisted some arms because the conservatives wanted more cuts to the social safety net to balance out the budget. Right. If the bill becomes law, 7 million people will lose their Medicaid coverage, according to the Congressional Budget Office. And it also includes tax breaks, no taxes on tips and overtime. Those are things Trump proposed on the campaign trail, but those are temporary, unlike the tax cuts for the rich, which are forever and ever. Food stamps and other social safety net programs would be drastically cut.
I mean, what did we expect?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what did we expect? I mean, and then the reality is, obviously, policy is just a way of giving you something, right, to make you feel like they care a little bit, so that they can take take the bag, right? I mean, when you give somebody no taxes on tip, what if you don't own tip? What, you don't earn tips, right? It's not really. It's usually giving a segment of society something, so they don't have to give the entire society what they need.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as I said during the campaign, even if they do take away taxes on tips, they're not going to raise the minimum wage.
Right.
So, giving with one hand, taking away with the other. Yeah. Well, everybody caved. The Republicans from the Democratic states were trying to get bigger tax deduction on interest on to help their folks, and the conservatives wanted to cut down that $3.3 trillion, adding to the deficit. What I don't understand, why do I keep saying this? I'm going to say it anyway. What I don't understand is why these low-income white folks still continue to support this man. This budget bill literally gives to the rich and takes from the poor.
Right.
Gives to the wealthy, takes from the seniors.
Yeah, because it feels better to belong to something than to have what you need. Right?
Okay.
So, in other words, it feels better to be part of the in crowd, or you know how social media works, right? Everybody likes. It feels better to be liked. It feels better to be part of a group. It feels better to be part of a you know what I'm saying?
I do
they
know
would
what you're
rather
saying.
be part of white supremacy, as long as they're not black, right?
Yeah.
Or as long as they're not immigrants, as long as they're not the other. They would rather be poor and white as long as they could kick everybody out.
Okay. Well, I think that that makes sense. I mean, that was like the thing that makes racism work, right? The thing that makes capitalism work is racism and convincing people that they're better than us.
Exactly.
But when it's so blatant, We're going to be $3 trillion more in debt to give money to the rich and take money from senior citizens and their health care and the very poor and the disabled. I just don't, how does that not ring a bell?
Yeah. And we have a society that praises billionaires anyway, right? We praise greed. We praise more and more. Let's give this person more and more and more. And the more they have, the more we give them.
Do you think that's changing, though? I feel like people are...
I think on the ground,
yeah,
in the streets,
yeah.
I'm remembering Angela Davis, right? She said radical means grabbing things at the root. So I think at the roots, it's beginning to move a little bit.
Yeah, people are getting sick of these oligarchs.
Yeah, exactly. And we had it with Occupy, right? I think folks were already sick with Occupy, and I think Occupy was 2016 or whenever it was, right? So folks were already sick of that. They just didn't know where to go after that.
Yeah, and I feel like that was to some degree reflected in this last election because the Dems and the Republicans were both so corporate that a lot of people didn't show up and vote, and because the celebrities didn't influence people as much as they usually do, because people are like, you thinking you're out of touch, you're rich, what do you know about my life?
Right.
You know, you're spending $20,000 on a dress. I can't pay my light bill.
Right.
I think the Kardashians of the world are just less influential than they were 5 years ago.
Plantation capitalism.
Explain what you mean by that.
Plantation capitalism is those who are at the top. They run the plantation, and everybody else, it's capitalism. It's again, and then that's why a lot of folks are angry with people like Snoop or folks who go and do stuff with Donald Trump, but it's plantation capitalism. 50 cents told you, get rich or die trying, right? That's for a long time in the black community, that was our North Star, right? It was about becoming billionaires. It was about becoming hip-hop moguls.
That's why so many people in the hip-hop community like Donald Trump.
Exactly.
It's not keep telling people that it's not his policies, it's his golden toilet.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
And supermodel wife.
Right. And the hip-hop community is very diverse.
Yeah.
Right? It's very diverse. We got folks who are conscious and folks who are unconscious. That's why you can have hip-hop artists saying that we shouldn't have reparations, as if reparations is something that they're giving us. We have this mentality that the U.S. government is giving us something, and the U.S. government has never given us anything. They've always taken from our people.
Now you're referring to Jay French, because
That's right.
I saw you commenting.
That's right. That's right.
Everybody in America is
commenting. But I'm not really
down
on the brother like that, because I understand a lot of our people, they especially if they're millennials, they don't understand the historical context to a large degree, right?
Well, maybe one day you guys will debate. I mean, I think if you watch the whole show, there were some legit issues too about what repair we have to do for ourselves and to ourselves spiritually.
Yeah, but that's a different conversation.
Well, I think that's where he was trying to go.
If somebody owe you money, right?
Yeah,
they're not going to say, "Well, you got to repay yourself before I pay you." No, give me my damn money. You owe me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right, and I've said that to every single person on this show,
right?
Especially on our Freedman Fridays conversation. But I do think that the self-reflection is also a legitimate conversation.
Yeah, well, it is
self-healing
within our communities,
internally.
Internally, it's not something that we need massa. Don't come regurgitating masters, because we hear masters say that all the time, right? Pull yourself up by your own bootstrap. That's another way of saying that, right? No, pay us what you owe us, and let us worry about our communities, because we do a good job. We got HBCUs, we got all kind of stuff that we've done in our community. If it wasn't for HBCUs, where would we be right now with Trump's policies?
Where would we be right now with black doctors?
Come on now, where would we be with all of these people?
Less than where we are. Yeah.
Right. So that's why Skid Row People's Market is us. For me, we have to do more things like that. We have to build in our communities and continue to recycle our dollars, not just by supporting a black business, but by pulling resources out of that old system and diverting it back into mom and pop stores, different things like that. We don't need to depend on Target any longer. We don't need to depend on Tesla any longer. We see what we can do.
Right.
What we're doing is we're continuing to to create these masters in plantation capitalism, right?
Okay, well, we only have a minute and a half here, so I'm not going to ask you what I was going to ask you. But some people will say, well, you got a store and a smoothie shop and a coffee company. Isn't that capitalism?
Well, it is. And that's why I made the distinction, plantation capitalism, right? Right now, we just purchased the store, yet the people in our store are making $20 an hour. Because my main goal is not profit, even though it's one of the goals. My main goal is the health of the people and the health of the community.
I mean, it's like Dr. Julianne Malveaux says, there's a difference between predatory capitalism and, having a business.
Right.
And hopefully we're on the having a business side.
That's
and
right.
then socially innovative capitalism,
Right,
which is where your business is.
Yeah, and it's a social enterprise.
Yeah.
These are social enterprise where we're helping people. We've got about for the past week when we did our event, we had about 30 people on payroll. Regularly, we have about 20 people on payroll.
Okay.
Some of them live in shelters and all of that, and are now transitioning because of the resources that we're putting in their pocket.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, the ultimate system would be socialism with the ability to have your own enterprise. Right. So there's a floor. Everybody has a universal basic income, a place to live, and health care. Right. It doesn't have to be fancy. But then if you want to go and earn $1 billion or $2 billion or 100 and innovate and do all that stuff, we won't stop you.
Yeah, no, we won't.
We won't stop you. It doesn't have to be. I feel like we don't have to choose because we're already combining capitalism and socialism right now. We have a fire department, our schools. Those are socialist models that we are using successfully within a capitalist paradigm. We got news, traffic, and sports right now. And we'll continue this conversation with Pastor Q and you on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says genocide is taking place in South Africa, with reporters and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa present in the Oval Office Wednesday. Trump played video clips he says proves there is genocide against white Afrikaners.
They're being executed, and they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. And that's a tough situation. How do you explain that?
Ramaphosa has denied the allegations. A political showdown is heating up on Capitol Hill. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace has filed a resolution to expel Black Democrat LaMonica McIver, accusing her of assaulting law enforcement during a visit to a migrant detention center in New Jersey. McIver strongly denies the allegations, while Democrats argue the move is politically motivated. And Target is holding the line on prices for now. Despite disappointing first quarter sales, Target says raising prices will be a last resort in response to tariffs. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app. Back to Terry McCready.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Once upon a time, the Clippers had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on their roster. He played in all 82 games for the Clippers as a rookie in the 2018-19 season. 6 years later, Gilgeous-Alexander was voted the NBA's most valuable player. The Oklahoma City guard led the NBA in scoring this season with a 32.7 average and was a major reason OKC had the NBA's best record at 68-14. Forgive me for bringing up a bad memory. In 2019, the Clippers traded Gilgeous-Alexander and 7 first-round picks to OKC for Paul George, who's now in Philadelphia. OKC and Minnesota play Game 2 tonight in the Western Conference Finals. OKC is up 1-0. In the East, Indiana broke down New York with a 138-135 win in overtime in Game 1. The Knicks had an 8-point lead with 41 seconds left in the fourth quarter. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like it.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
You make my day.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, KBLA Talk 1580. Pastor Q is here. Oh, man, what happened? Okay, never mind. Little glitch there. But so much to talk about. So yesterday, the South African president visited the White House. Of course, the relations have been very, very strained because Elon Musk and apparently Tucker Carlson are in the president's ear telling him that there's a white people genocide going on. And also just saying things that aren't true, like there's land being seized from white farmers. They do have eminent domain there, just like we have it here.
Come on.
And, of course, the U.S. has stopped giving aid to South Africa because of this made-up crisis, and also has invited some rich white people to be refugees here.
They didn't invite them. They went and got them.
Yeah. Okay,
They chartered a plane.
They imported.
They basically imported them.
Yeah. So, I mean, the president has a way of...
At least they gave him a choice to come.
Yeah, right. They didn't put him in slave ships. But the president has a habit of ambushing world leaders when they go into the White House.
Right.
Talking smack. But it seemed like the whole... For President Ramaphosa of South Africa, it felt like a much more elaborate setup. They had a video presentation. Mm-hmm. He had copies of news articles that he handed him.
Right.
It seemed like it was a whole setup.
Yeah. Because, I mean, white supremacy, right? If you're meeting the black president and you're a white supremacist, and you're meeting the person from the S-hole country, remember, in his first term, he called African countries S-hole countries, right?
Yep.
So if you're meeting the black president, and if you are apartheid, if you support apartheid, right, and you are ignoring the genocide that's been done in your own country, of course, right? Because you're a white supremacist. So
yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't expect
understand
anything
it
else.
Philosophically, I think it's just, home training. Is this that's how you treat guests in your house?
Yeah.
That's your idea of diplomacy? I thought the South African president handled him.
Right. Everybody handles Trump, though, right?
Well, Zelensky looked like he was trying his best not to beat his butt when the
Right.
Ukrainian president was in there.
Exactly.
Ramaphosa was calm. He was grounded. He was like, "Oh, I wish we had a plane to give you."
Clearly messing with him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was. Also, I think he, but he also kept it positive. He didn't go combative on him.
Right.
He said, "We're here to talk to you. We want to work these things out." And he tried to explain things without getting mad. I would have been mad.
Right.
More black people are killed by crime in our country than white people. You dumb.
Right. Exactly.
ASS.
Yeah, but the reality is, there's a biblical scripture that says, "Clean the plank out of your own eye before you try to clean the speck out of your brother's eyes," right? And that is the characteristic of white supremacy. It's this made up moral standard, but you don't have the moral ground to stand on. So how dare you try to hold the South African president accountable when you don't even hold your own police officers accountable? You give them qualified immunity,
Right.
all of that stuff. Where
Right.
you didn't even hold your January 6th rioters accountable, right? It's all rooted in whiteness. That's all it is. And so, of course, he's excited and giddy because he's got a black man in front of him and he can try and feed red meat to his base because they're so racist. Of course, he's excited about that, right? So he's going to try to get a leg up on him, or he's,
The irony, too, is like, do you know that they used eminent domain to take white farmers' property? Trump did.
Right.
To build that wall.
Right.
Trump has taken more land from white farmers than South Africa. I mean, without question.
Right.
White farmers that were Trump supporters. Like,
Right.
no, we taking that because we building a wall.
Right. But Trump is a social media president. He's a social media president. He wants clicks.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that. I've
He
said that
governs.
before.
He governs. He leads for clicks. He governs for clicks. So whatever it is, his base is going to, they're going to rally around today. He's going to post that. Tomorrow he's going to have something else. Tomorrow he's going to have something else. He governs for clicks.
Mm. Well, I'm not sure what will come out of it. They showed clips of Julius Malema, who is not a member of President Ramaphosa's party.
Mm.
He's a member of a different party, more radical party.
Right.
And they had newspaper articles that were about crime. They were not about white farmers. They were just about white people being victims of crime, which black people are also victims of crime. So,
but this is what they do here. It's the same exact playbook: black on black crime. Why does black crime need to be identified, but white crime is not identified?
Right.
Right. When you look at, who are the ones causing the most crimes in America? Isn't it white supremacists who are causing the most crimes?
They've been identified as the biggest threat to our national security.
Exactly. And
by the FBI.
And he's doing nothing about that, but he's all the way in South Africa.
Well, my point about the Malema thing is, what if, Trump went somewhere and they started playing him speeches that were made by members of the KKK?
Exactly.
Say, this is your country.
Right.
Or members of or members of the Proud Boys. I mean,
Right.
not to say that Malema
And-
is the KKK, but
Right.
it's not an official part of his administration.
But if they did that to him, it would fit because that is his party.
Yeah,
right?
well,
On
that's
the
true.
other hand,
if
it's
the hood
not.
fits, let them wear
Right,
it.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I wonder, though, if that helped anything. Like, I wonder if the South African president's wisdom, restraint, and class in that situation, and humor, will actually improve relations with South Africa. I was feeling upset that they acquiesced to Elon Musk, they being the South African government, and let him get around having to have black investors or black ownership in his company because he was objecting to it. They gave him an exception, so now Starlink will come into South Africa.
Yeah, well, I think it's this, again, when you're going against white supremacy and you need something, right? I think those leaders usually look for, okay, he may not have to deal with black folks, but at the same time, the country as a whole benefits if Starlink is there. And I think that's what that's their way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I would rather have Traore's way of thinking, right? That would be me. But
Burkina Faso's president.
Exactly.
Which is get the West out. The thing about it is all money ain't good money, number one. And number two,
Domino, baby. That's what we say. All money ain't good money.
What you're doing is
Right.
you're giving a racist apartheid American, Trump and Elon, control over your internet.
That's the same problem I have with the Democratic Party.
Okay. That was a great tease. He's going to explain what he means by that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in focus and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. If you're a guy facing divorce, remember, Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
Trust and Will knows that we'll all eventually need a will. How about right now? Trust and Will makes creating your will easy, like while you're lounging on the couch easy. Trust and Will is designed by attorneys but customized by you, and all documents are state-specific and secure. Find your plan at trustandwill.com and use offer code RADIO now for 20% off. That's trustandwill.com, offer code RADIO. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. Visit trustandwill.com for details.
Imagine every pregnant person in LA County having the support they deserve. A doula on every block. Doulas provide emotional, physical, and informational support during pregnancy, through labor, and beyond. Medi-Cal now covers doula care. That means you can get the support you need or train to support families in your community. The LA County Medi-Cal Doula Hub is here to help. Learn more and get started today at ladoulahub.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
College Boys coming to you for the year 2000, covering all sectors of the universe. Creep through the hood with my drop top. Gangsters on the sidelines, throwing up nothing but a peace sign. Brothers on the curb with the herb. Levi's knee-high, OG's clock as I creep by. Crib to crib, grown-ups to kids, girls I did. They all know me, so the ghetto stays cozy. Fiends and teens sport a couple of trophies. One for the dope man, the other for the homie. The ghetto's a real cool place to be fucked up. Sundown to sun up, but that's the way we come up. You talk with the street slang, you ball and you gangbang. That's where the family hangs, so it ain't no thing.
I could have told you that was coming.
Oh, yeah. Whoops. Okay, KBLA Talk 1580. That's his music, Pastor Q, Stephen Jean-Marie. Jean-Marie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jean-Marie, yeah.
That's the right way to say it, right?
That's the right way to say it.
Of Skid Row's Church Without Walls, also Creating Justice, LA, and many other things. And actually yesterday was a protest in memorial or
the 5th year anniversary of George Floyd, put together by Black Lives Matter Grassroots and BLM Los Angeles. It was a good time, and you know what I'm saying, we got to stay in these streets.
It sounded like a lot of people went.
Yeah, we had about 600 folks.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
On a Wednesday.
In
the middle of downtown traffic.
In the middle of downtown at 4:00 in the afternoon.
Right. That's dope. And
and we were at the Hall of Injustice. Right. It's called the Hall of Justice, but I changed it. It's called the Hall of Injustice.
Where our current DA.
Yeah, where our current DA.
Mr. Mini Maga is residing.
The guy who arrested me on the day of his swearing in.
That's right, he sure did. But there were no charges, right?
The case is still open.
What?
I talked to the attorney yesterday. It's not. They haven't filed it. So usually, what they do, right, when you're an activist, what they do is they hold on to the case because they have like a certain amount of time. I think up to a year to file it. So what they'll do is they'll hold on to it to prevent you from doing another action or to protesting again.
Whoops.
Because exactly, and if you protest within that time, they can throw both charges at you at the same time.
Right. So they have something to hold over your head.
Exactly.
Were you DJing yesterday?
No, I was actually. I did the prayer and was just helping with other stuff.
Okay, because a lot of times you'll see Pastor Q out there. I know he's a pastor, but many times you'll be DJing.
Yeah, I'll be DJ. I'll be on the ones and twos sometimes.
Did you rap?
No, I didn't rap.
No rapping. No.
Yeah.
That was only for Black Women Are Divine. That was special. But it's good to see people hitting the streets. I mean, that's, that is important and increasingly important for us to be fearless.
Yep.
I feel like that's the main thing we can channel from Malcolm X right now is a fearlessness in the face of encroaching authoritarianism.
Right, and we got something planned for July 3rd called the Freedom Cruise.
What's that? Tell me more.
I can't tell you on the radio, but it's Freedom Cruise. I'll tell you when we get off.
Okay.
Freedom Cruise. Just tell everybody, lock in July 3rd. That's all you need to know.
I think I'm going to be in Ghana.
That's
Can
all
I
right.
lock in from Ghana?
You'll probably be able to see it live from Ghana.
Okay. All right. I sure will. Yeah. So a lot of the same day that you guys are marching, for George Floyd. The Trump administration, the Justice Department under the Trump administration, has declared that they will not follow up on these. They're not going to enforce these consent decrees, these deals with Minneapolis and Louisville. Basically, kind of carrying through what Trump said on the campaign trail, which is police should have absolute, complete immunity.
Why do you think he did it why do you think he did it yesterday?
I don't know. Why do you think he did it yesterday?
George Floyd.
Yeah. I mean, the actual anniversary is the 25th. That's
right.
That's a weekend, so he had to do it.
Yeah, but exactly. Right.
The disrespect of that is...
Yeah. And he understood that there were some actions happening around the nation.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's what he does.
But how do you even justify that? We're dropping our police accountability deals with Minneapolis and Louisville. Carry on. Do whatever you want. Be unlawful.
But
be lawless.
Again, what was California's first police force?
I don't know.
California's very first, exactly. California's very first police force was recruited from the KKK and people like that, white supremacists.
I mean, the Los Angeles reparations report, which just came out, documents the number of KKK members who were part of the LAPD.
Of course.
And how many chapters? I never knew there were.
Who were or are?
Well, they don't say are, but you can follow the dots.
Oh. Trust me,
connect the dots.
Spending all that time we've done at police commissions and in the sheriff oversight commission and tracing deputy gangs and all of that stuff. Trust me, they're in there, right? And all of the stuff that happened in Torrance PD recently, where they had to get rid of 24 officers. And,
we know Torrance
all around the nation.
Torrance is a sundown town. If you haven't been to Southern California, but they're just saying they're not going to do police oversight at all. Anyway,
I'm not surprised. I don't expect them to.
To me, the disrespect of doing that on George Floyd's 5th anniversary is the type of stuff that should get you struck by lightning. Can we work that out? Can we arrange for that, Pastor Q?
Well, we can pray about it. remember Mama Harriet Tubman's prayer, right? For the person who was so-called her master. You know that prayer? I pray it all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, so she prayed, God, please change my master's heart. And Mama Harriet Tubman, for those who don't know, was very religious. Please change my master's heart. And then one of a few enslaved people came back to her and said, Master is about to sell us to the chain gang. She went back into the prayer closet and prayed, God, if you're not going to change the man's heart, kill him. Shortly after that, he fell over and died. And she felt bad. I wouldn't have, but she felt bad.
You
but
wouldn't have?
No, not at all.
You're a pastor. How can you say that?
Well, would you feel bad if they killed Hitler before he killed all those people? Exactly. So people are enslaving people and brutalizing people and raping our women.
But
why would I feel bad if somebody died for doing that?
And forgive me for bringing this up.
Because it's God's judgment.
At the end of the hour. But yesterday, 2 Israeli embassy staffers were killed.
Right.
Fatally shot outside an event in Washington.
Right.
And they claimed that the suspect said free Palestine. I don't know. Here's what I know. I just don't think it's okay to walk up to people and kill them, no matter what your cause. You just don't get to just off people.
I don't think you should, but you also have to understand why it happens.
Yeah, I do understand why it happens.
And watch this. And we also have to understand how we can prevent it from happening. That is why Donald Trump is so dangerous. When you have a president who parades in violence, who promotes violence, right? It emboldens so many people, so many white supremacists have been emboldened in violence. Remember when I went to the UCLA protest at UCLA when they had the encampment, remember some Zionists said to me that we're not American Jews, we're Israeli Jews. And if you oppose us, and I was just there trying to keep the peace and between the two groups, trying to keep them divided. He said, and if you oppose us, we'll slit your throat. That's what a Zionist person said to me. So when you create these environments, when we look at violence, we can't just look at one or two incidents that just occurred. We have to look at, okay, what is the environment that's causing this to happen? Prior to Donald Trump, we had hate crimes and all of this stuff, but it wasn't on this level. And so when you have someone who created that environment, he's as responsible for those two people, Jewish people, getting killed as he is for starving all those kids in Palestine, as he is for the brutality of George Floyd, as he is for the Central Park Five, as he is for housing discrimination. He's responsible for that because he continues to fuel that stuff and fan the embers. So you don't just walk up to people and do that, but if you have a society that looks at one life as being devalued and you say this person's life doesn't matter and you ignore when these people are crying, when you're crying out, nobody's going to hear it. It's kind of like when the United Healthcare CEO, right, got pew-pewed. The reality is we have a society where our leaders and folks who are supposed to be protecting people are destroying people, and they don't care about certain people groups. And now those people groups, now their hearts have been seared like a steak. They're saying, I can't feel the compassion. I can't feel the empathy because you didn't feel it for me.
We're going to have to leave it right there. Boy, that was the beginning of a whole other hour. And hopefully we'll get to do that hour sometime soon. Tell folks how to follow you, Pastor Q.
Yeah, follow me at Create Justice on IG. And creatingjustice.la is our website. And so you can find me there. One love, y'all.
Thanks for all the great work that you do. It's much appreciated, and thanks for joining us this morning. Yeah, we're going to turn up the hip-hop, turn up the music, turn up the clubbing when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump says genocide is taking place in South Africa, with reporters and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa present in the Oval Office Wednesday. Trump played video clips he says proves there is genocide against white Afrikaners.
They're being executed, and they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. And that's a tough situation. How do you explain that?
Ramaphosa has denied the allegations. A political Congresswoman, Nancy Mace, has filed a resolution to expel Black Democrat LaMonica McIver, accusing her of assaulting law enforcement during a visit to a migrant detention center in New Jersey. McIver strongly denies the allegations, while Democrats argue the move is politically motivated. And Target is holding the line on prices for now. Despite disappointing first quarter sales, Target says raising prices will be a last resort in response to tariffs. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app. Back to Terry McCready.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today?